Hello my coloring friends and other mixed media artists. I am Mandy. I'm welcoming you back to the channel. Thank you for being patient for a video to be uploaded. It's been a busy month for me and stuff, and I'll kind of talk about that in another video in a color and chat. But in today's video we are going to play around with the Temu acrylic markers versus the Artix acrylic markers, and I'm going to kind of give you my thoughts and opinions on them and what I have found works well with them and what kind of coloring pages, and then we're going to do some testing of how well color pencils go over them. I have a couple pages out of a Hannah Lynn book to try different pencil brands over top of them, and also with the golden satin glazing liquid, putting it down first, then using the markers and pencils and see what we get. So to go on from there, sorry, I'm kind of out of sync of how to do the videos and how to talk on the videos because it's been a month, so bear with me. The first we are going to look at is the Temu brand of markers. So there were two different types on the website on Temu. So one was a brush and fine point nib, and they only came in 24 colors. And then we had this wider tip nib that came in 48 colors, and that was the only nib on here. So I ended up picking up both of these sets along with two sets of the Artix markers, which I'll show here. So these are the Artix brand, and they had two different sets, and they are also brush and bullet nib. So, oh, interesting. As you can see, and they come in a 24 set and I believe a 24 set and a 32 set. So, and then I store them horizontally in this nice storage container that I got from the Dollar Tree. But let's look at the swatches. So this is the first set of swatches for they're called Giorgione acrylic brush markers from Temu. I don't have them in color order, but you don't get very many colors. You get 2 yellows, a couple pinks, couple purples, 2 blues, 3 greens, some neutral, 1 red, 1 orange, and a black, a gray, and a white, which is basically your basic 24 color set of even if you've had color pencils. And then the Giorgio acrylic markers with the broader nibs, you end up getting more colors with them. And those were a 32 set, I believe. Yes. So, and then these are all the swatches for the Artix markers. They are all Miss Random. I didn't put them in color family order. I just swatched the way the boxes were and swatched one after another. But certainly they're a mismatch of colors. Some are a little bit more opaque than others, some are pastel and translucent, and stuff. So these are the colors. Now I did test them out in a few coloring books, of 2 different styles of coloring books to actually show you how they would perform on paper. My first book that I've tested them out in was the 50 Winter in Christmas Fairy Houses. This was actually a buddy color page, but my buddy never finished it. So this is the first page that I did. You can tell that they are water-based, which is, you do have some bleed through depending on how much saturation on the other page you have, which is always good to have a cardstock behind it. I did have to use, I used some other colors that were a little bit more metallic and some metallic gel pen. I did find out that you can kind of mix them between the different metallics to get the snowy gray effect that I did. I also, you have less lines compared to water-based markers. I did notice that. It will make your like Amazon paper crinkly because obviously they have a water medium to it. They're great for large spaces. If you wanted to use one like color to highlight it, it's best to wait till the marker is dry and then go over and do a highlight color on the larger spaces. This one does not have any pencil over it. We're gonna get into the pencil testing here in a minute. What I liked about it, it made this page go quicker with less streaking compared to, if you go back over here, compared to the water-based marker. There is lots of streaking unless, to minimize it, you go in the same direction to make it look a little bit more universal without the streaking. And obviously I used some acrylic paint here, but yeah, this was all done pretty much with marker, and I didn't really like the streaks compared to the acrylic base markers. So there is this one, this book. And the next book that these markers would be really good in using for is the Disney Color by Numbers. I know a lot of people are trying different mediums in their books to figure out what would work best in these books. I know a lot of people use acrylic paint pens, some use these acrylic markers, some use water-based markers, some use pencil, some use gel pen, in which I've been kind of playing around with all of them. So I did 2 different pages with the markers. So this side here is the Temu markers, which I noticed they have a lot more water and you could see some of the streaks. I had, you know, if things are not dried fast enough or made a mistake, you will have bleeding. But they do dry very quickly. So this is the Temu, and then on this side is Figaro, which is Mickey's cat. And these were done with the Arctics, and they had a lot more transparent pastel colors versus more opaque. They are, like I said, they are excellent for bigger spaces. So there is this page that I've done with them. And I actually really liked how Figaro turned out versus Mickey, just because Mickey had more streaking versus Figaro didn't. So you can tell that between the different qualities of from the Temu versus the Arctics. So there is that. I think that's the only one I did with the markers in here. I believe so. Yes. So. And couple other pages I'm working on right now that are in a different medium. So in this book, these are all the dogs in the different movies. I did 2 pages in here. So between the 2 markers. So I did the Devil and Angel Pluto between the 2. I did notice with this one, the more layers that you have between the marker, it makes it more darker as you're adding more layers to it. There were quite a bit of streaks on the Temu one compared to the Arctics. There are less streaks here. I also prepped these with satin glazing liquid to try them out, and I actually used a brayer, which was recommended to me by another friend, which gives you the smoother application than using a foam brush or a big brush, and you can do a thin layer on it. And once I did the satin glazing liquid, things went really nicely. I had some issues where I was trying to correct and see if I could actually blend through, and I could blend with another marker. So those are those pages. And then the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to pull out some pages from Hannah Lynn, and I have some prepped. We're going to work with, we're going to test Prismacolors, Crayolas, and Polychromo pencils. I only have a few to find out how well the acrylic marker works with pencil. And then I have here on my clipboard, so I have printer paper to simulate Amazon books. This has been prepped with satin glazing liquid. I also have regular cardstock that's been prepped with satin glazing liquid. This is the Astro Bright cardstock. Can't figure out how many pounds it is off of the top of my head. Also prepped with satin glazing liquid. And then I have some that are not, based on printer paper and regular cardstock. So let's have some fun here playing around. So we're going to do the satin glazing liquid first. So I want to do the one with the kitty because of me having a kitty. So we'll start with the kitty. We're not going to color the whole page on here because that would take forever to get through everything that we need to do for the testing. So we're just going to color some areas based on some of the markers that I have, and I will do the Temu and both the Arctics. So here. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just trying to make room. There's lots of stuff on the desk. Okay, so what should we color first? Since it is fall, we should work on the pumpkin. Pumpkin would be really fun to test out a marker. So let's go with the pumpkin. So I'm going to bring you down. And I basically just kind of do short, long, elongated strokes with this. to kind of keep everything consistent. I am still learning how to use brush markers. In this. So this is my first time ever reviewing a product too, and giving you my thoughts and recommendations on what to use. So this is the first for the channel. And if you want me to review anything else, let me know in the comments and I will look that particular item up and review it. Whether it's for adult coloring or just regular mixed media art, or how to incorporate that in like a background or a page, whether colored pencils would go over it, what is, you know, your common most things that you would think about. So if you would like to see more on the channel, the nice thing about the Hannah Lynn pages, they have these really thick black lines, so if you do mess up, you can, it won't hurt it too much. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry a little bit while I pick out some colors with my Prismacolors. So we got pale vermilion, white umber. Okay, so here I've picked out, I'll bring it down a little bit so you can actually see what I'm doing. So I picked out a light umber, yellowed orange, which is PC 1002, and the other one was PC 941, and I picked out this pale vermilion PC 921 to just kind of go in and do some detail work and see how well. And as you can tell, the ink is fairly dry, so you can see that the Prisma is actually kind of going over on top of it really well. And this is the light umber. I'm just doing light layers here, nothing too fancy. But you can see that the Prisma does go over it. which is nice. I'm just laying kind of cleaning up my brushwork and adding a lighter of a color in here. Just kind of blend through that umber too, and that really bright orange underneath. Thinking where my light source is. And also tell the pencils are doing really good with the page prepped with the satin glazing liquid too, so that's a positive. Now I've got this pale vermilion to just kind of bring some more of the reddish orange in. Where's my pencil brush here? Get all the dust off. Like I said, I'm going to come back now just to define those darker lines a little bit more that I laid down at first. As the wax bloom can sometimes, you know, have issues with pencils, especially if you're using wax-based pencils. Which you can kind of see some of that as I'm because with Prismas you can do a lot of smushing, but I don't like to smush my Prismas. I like to layer them. So there is using it with Prismas. And there's another, we're gonna move on now to polychromos. There's another pumpkin down in this corner, so let's see. Dark cadmium orange. I only have a small amount of polychromos, so. Because I am still working on getting the full set. So I pulled out the cadmium orange, cadmium yellow, and what is it? Walnut brown. So I'm going to sharpen these. And see how an oil-based pencil goes over these pumpkins. Trying not to jiggle the table so much. Hopefully I might be able to stabilize that out when in editing. Okay, so we're going to go down in this little corner. It's not a very big pumpkin, so we'll again go in with our Temu acrylic painter pen, brush pen. The downside with these is they don't have color names on them. They don't have light fast ratings. You do have to store them horizontally. I do know that much. Also too, sometimes when you're using the bullet nib, which I can show you, will run out a little bit. The bullet nib is not as flexible as the brush. Actually, I'll color this with the bullet nib. And the bullet nib is good for like smaller spaces. But sometimes I've found, like, when I'm coloring with the bullet, it will run out. So, and then I can flip it and go back to the brush nib. So I don't know how much ink is in the pens, based that they're two different nib sizes, or because I'm using the bullet that it does that. That was something I experienced doing the Disney books. Was having that when I would use the bullet nib. So then I would have to go back and flip to the brush. And that happened also with the Arctic markers. It wasn't just the Temu ones. I had that happen with the Arctics too. So, trying to figure out where all the pumpkins ended. Okay, that must be for that pumpkin behind her. Okay, so we're gonna let that part dry. And then we're going to pull out our polychromos and just kind of defined wow. Ooh, polychromos definitely go over a lot more smoother than the Prismas. And I'm assuming that's because this is an oil base compared to a wax. And we're just gonna Okay, semi-truck, we heard your horn. I don't know if you guys heard it on the camera, I'm sorry. I did. The bedroom window is open. There's that. Okay, polychromos are blending in better than Prismas. That's good to know. So if you don't have polychromos and you just have the Brute Printer squares, they are an oil-based budget. That would definitely work on this Amazon paper with this and the satin glazing. So this is good to know. And then also, if you don't have Brute Printer squares, but you have Castle Art Golds, those would be another budget oil brand pencil you could try blending with if you don't have polys. Because I know how expensive the polychromos are. That's why I don't have very many of them myself. I'm working on getting the full set, but finances, bills come first. But yeah, I am definitely liking how the oil blends nicely on top of this acrylic ink. Take a look at that, guys. Look at that. How nice that blends with the oil versus the wax. Just gonna go back in here. And there's the polychromos. Now let's find something. Well, we could do a little bit here with the orange with the Crayola. So, because there is a pumpkin behind the cat. A little bit. So, let's get some Crayola pencils here. No, let's go with... Hang on, guys. I gotta dig through this whole thing. like those golden. Carrot. Oh, that's coral. There we have a yellow. We have an orange citrus, maybe? I'm just guessing, guys. Oh, the golden yellow. Maybe switch to the golden yellow. And let's find kind of an umber color. Like a dark brown, okay. Now we're going to go on to the Crayola pencils. So, I'm thinking this spot is pumpkin 2. Thinking. Okay. There's just a lot going on in this page. So I got that down. And I've got my pencils. So I picked out dark brown, golden yellow, and orange circuit. Orange, yeah, circuit. So, and they're all sharpened. So now Crayola is a harder wax pencil. So I'm hoping with the Crayola, because they're a harder wax, that we won't see so much waxy bloom right away. And that is exactly what we're seeing, is not so much wax bloom, because it takes a while to get the pigment going on Crayola because they are a budget brand. So if you have Crayola, I'd actually say these would be really good on top of here too. And which they are blending well with it. I am definitely going to use Crayola and Polychromos on top of these in my books. I would recommend though using satin glazing liquid first, because it will help the paper absorb the excess water. That would be my biggest recommendation. Like I said, it didn't... You can tell though after a few layers, it does give you the waxiness. But there is the Crayola pumpkin. Look at that just pop with that as a base color. I definitely like how that pops. So let's try the cardstock paper, and we're going to switch to the Arctic markers. And with the same pencils, so I'm going to move these aside for a minute and switch pictures. And go this way, come out a little bit so you can see the image. So this one is a larger pumpkin. This page has been treated with satin glazing liquid too, so let's see if we have the same results as what we had here. So we do have an orange. A couple different oranges here. Let me see. Now don't always trust this here as what it's going to be. It's always going to be different when you swatch it. Seeing if I've got any more other, like, we have a lighter one. Okay. So, let's get some regular paper here and take a look at what we want to use. Whether it's the lighter one, the dark one. So we've got, this one is more of a golden, yellowy. This one is more orange, and this one's even more orange. So let's go with this orange for the big pumpkin, and the yellow one for the yellowy one for the smaller gourd, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we've got this one, which has the fine and the bullet nib. I will say the nib quality is better on the Arctics versus the Temu when it comes to flexibility and fraying. So that's a positive with the Arctics. Their pigment is a lot more richer than the Temu ones. Which I enjoy. This one is a little bit more opaque than the other orange one, because you can definitely see it covering the black line more so than the other one. I will say that these markers definitely save your hand, for sure, from multiple layers and large layers of laying down just pure color pencil. So that would be like my biggest recommendation, is like saving time. These definitely do save you time in your larger spaces. And you can use them on double-sided books. Whereas like alcohol markers, if you have a double-sided book, you can't. You would be messing up the page behind it. Like I said, I'm still getting used to brush markers. But with the black acrylic marker, you can put those lines back in that you're going over, or you can put them back in with color pencil, which we're going to do with the color pencil here. The nice thing about brush markers is it's like you're using a paint brush on your coloring page. Those little speckles, I'm going to cover them up right now, because if I were to complete this page, I'd probably put them back in with glitter gel pen and make them look sparkly on top of this orange. So we're just gonna, for the sake of this, we're gonna cover it up right now. And it does dry fairly quickly. A coloring book with wide black lines would be very helpful to for these markers, I would say. People are going up and down the hill by the lake. Man, I should have closed the window. Darn it. But it's so beautiful outside. The leaves are starting to change around here. It's starting to smell like fall. It's starting to get gorgeous. I will put down in the video description what kind of paper I used, or cardstock, to print on these images on top of if you are interested of what I used. The nice thing is I printed on an inkjet printer at the library, and the satin glazing liquid did not smear any of the lines as I was applying it with using the brayer. It might have smeared with a paintbrush, but ever since I started doing the satin glazing liquid with a brayer, I haven't had that issue. So. And then it allowed me to do smaller amounts of the satin glazing liquid because you really don't need that much of a coating on it. I did 2 coats just in case, but and I was able, I know a lot of people say wait 24 hours, but because we had some pretty high heat over this summer, it dried faster, so I was able to use it within less than 24 hours. Not saying that you can't wait 24 hours, you can. I know some colors do wait that extra 24 hours just to make sure that it's completely dry. And you're gonna wanna make sure that it is completely dry. I did prep these pages though several days ago, probably a couple weeks ago, I'd say, more so than just several days. So they did have time to cure. The satin glazing liquid had time to cure on the paper. And my suggestion though, when you're testing things like this, either buy a second copy where you have a tester book of like an Amazon printed book that, you know, it's not really going to be a big deal if you test in it. And then have a printer where you can make some copies of like a more higher end paper, or one of the more expensive books that you know that has better paper in it. Buy a second copy and use that second copy as your tester. Don't be like me and throwing your books out when you make a mess in them. Use them for your testers then. Like using satin glazing liquid, using acrylic markers. How does this medium react on this? Testing what pencils work really well on this paper compared to other papers. So I would just say always have a second copy of a book that you want to use for testing. So, because I have messed up my books and gotten so frustrated that I threw them in the trash when I could have used it as a tester, and I shouldn't have. So I've done that with my Pop Manga book. So and now I'm probably going to buy a third copy just to have, because I really like that book. So we're almost done here. And we can test our pencils. Okay, there is the basing of that big old pumpkin. So which ones are we going to start first? I don't. We'll do Prismas. I'm gonna sharpen a little bit. See if that will help me. It didn't sharpen. Ooh, I'm trying not to wiggle them out. As you can see, I'm using a dull 133 to sharpen. So, okay, here we go. Okay, now the Prisma is doing better on the better quality paper with the Arctics, I'm noticing. That's interesting. But I will say, I am getting some, since this is a big pumpkin, we'll try all three. Really? Dang, truck drivers honking at everybody in town. They're honkers. Okay, let's go over here on this line. Now the Prismas do get dusty on here, so we'll clean up some of that. Okay, let's do this. Let's get some of this down. Some highlight. Yeah, on this better paper, the Prismas are doing better. They are performing better than what they did on the printer paper. I will say that. Out to the top here. Do I have some pigment on my hand? Huh, I'll have to cover that. Oh, I bet you there's a pencil sharpener. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of pull this up a little bit on those sides so you can actually see here like right in here, how well they blended better on this cardstock versus the printer paper. The printer paper, they didn't do so well. I hear some cats snoring behind me. Mr. Toby. Alright, so let's go into the polychromos. So we're going to do the walnut brown, cadmium yellow, and cadmium orange. So we're going to go to the next few sections here. And again, I do like the oil based on the markers. That just seems to do the best job here. Okay. And I'm using like a medium, light to medium pressure. And my hand is really far up the pencil. So I'm not really working as hard per se. I'm just trying to get the color down. And I will say the pencils are performing better on the cardstock. So let's go back in here. now. Trying to blend in that spot. Okay, so those are the polychromos. Now we go back to Crayola. Alrighty, here we go to Crayola. Yes, these are definitely performing better on the better paper, even though they are wax. So your paper does make a difference in how your pencils will perform. Okay, so I'm going back in here with the orange. Now the Crayola, it takes quite a while to get a good amount of pigment out. But you just have to be patient. So that next section was done with Crayola. So if you can see that. So my final thoughts on all these markers. So I can use glitter gel pens to highlight over them. You can layer them if need be to add sparkle. The cons of the Temu marker, like I said before, is the marker brush nib starts to make the paper pill. If it's rubbed too hard, it bleeds through. If you layer too much ink, with the acrylic markers, the Arctics actually does very well. They have a better pigment quality, their nibs are better quality. Would I, all in all, recommend these markers? Yes, I would. I'd actually recommend both because they're different price points between per marker and cost of where you get them on Temu versus Amazon, and have to pay a little bit more for the Arctic. So they're good for whatever budget range that you have. So if you have a smaller budget, I'd definitely go with the Temu. If you have a little bit more money to spend, I would go with the Arctics. One thing I would recommend is better paper. Books of using these. You can use them in double-sided books. It does not bleed through. I would prep also with satin glazing liquid using a brayer. And then also all of your major pencil brands do blend well over them, but I found one pencil brand, it was the Polychromos, that outdid the Prismas and the Crayola. But they outdid the Prismas and the Crayolas on the printer paper and also on the cardstock. So, but Crayolas and Prismacolors perform better on the cardstock. So if you were to use these in your books, I would definitely recommend making a copy of your printer page, but to go on better cardstock. But if you don't want to do that and you don't have the means or the capabilities, I would definitely use your Castle Arts or your Polychromos in your Amazon books for using acrylic markers to lessen your time. And I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and I look forward to you on the next. Remember, you are loved by me, and have fun being creative and testing your supplies. And I will see you soon on the next video. Bye, my friends.